Good morning, starshine. Hello everyone, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and this is a message to Hillary voters from somebody who voted for Trump. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Trump supporter all through the whole campaign. I was making fun of him from the very beginning, as were pretty much all of you. But at a certain point, something became abundantly clear to me and to millions of other Americans that Donald Trump was not a joke, and that he actually had strategically planned out a very, very calculated run. And his act was basically it was tactical. It was meant to bring people in strategically. He was very brash, and he appealed to the right-wing voters when he was in the primary, you know, with the whole build a wall thing, and we're going to go after ISIS and take the oil. And, you know, he got the nomination against all odds while everyone was telling him he couldn't do it. And then basically proceeded to move more to the center and widen his appeal. He started making appeals to African Americans, to Hispanic Americans, to the LGBTQ community. You know, he started actually, and women, you know, basically people, they get into habits of thinking, okay? And what we have today in the mainstream media is just this bubble, this echo chamber. And to the people who actually still have faith in that system, an ever-dwindling number, as of right now 6% of Americans have a strong level of faith in the mainstream media, which of course is pretty abysmal. And now the alternative media, the internet, is actually dominating the news cycle, and it's where people are getting their information. And this election, the result of this election, is probably the most historic result of the internet since it was invented, okay? Basically, it was the WikiLeaks showing how Bernie Sanders was completely robbed in the Democratic primary, you know, and Hillary and her little, you know, team just basically stole it from him. And that basically, you know, some people say that Bernie Sanders was always there just to help out Hillary, you know, how he kind of flip-flopped on a lot of his principled, you know, stances and endorsed Hillary, even though, as he pointed out during the primary, she is the Wall Street candidate. She's owned by the banks. Her entire campaign was bankrolled by the major banks, in addition to Saudi Arabia and some other very unsavory characters. And, you know, in the interest of winning and having an electable candidate in this circular logic, you went with Hillary Clinton and hoped for the best. And, you know, I'm not speaking to you, the average Hillary Clinton voter, as if it was your decision, but in a certain sense, yes, you know, the elections can be rigged. Most of the time, they usually are, you know. Bernie Sanders had it rigged, and they tried. They really, really tried to rig it against Donald Trump, but even though you are not comfortable with what he's saying, and most of you probably have never even listened to one of his speeches, he spoke like a real human being. He came out, and you can go back and listen to his recorded speeches. Forget the sound bites, forget Joe Scarborough, forget Rachel Maddow, forget Bill Maher, okay? They're filtering reality for you, and what you have now is definitive proof that their filter is a lie. It's false. And I'm not trying to be mean in this video. This is a genuine outreach to people and to help them recognize what has happened here. You guys, you weren't listening this whole time. You can go back in my videos. I called this election for Trump on October 23rd. That's not to gloat, but just to point out that I was one of the few people who could see what was coming and what was happening. All of these polls gave you guys so much complacency, telling everybody, oh, she's a 99% chance of winning. She's got it in the bag. All right, high five. Like, you had this sense of inevitable victory. And it's that sense of inevitable victory which has destroyed the most powerful forces in history. Empires, republics, great people and great organizations. Huge forces have been taken down by that one belief that their victory is inevitable and they cannot be stopped. And that's what happened. And at the same time, now you're having some cognitive dissonance, as it's called, where your version of reality in your head doesn't line up with what you're seeing. And so there's a lot of people just out in the streets protesting, you know, and, you know, some of it is professionally organized, you know, and of course there's a lot of people who are just genuinely scared. And the main purpose of this video is to help you realize that you shouldn't be scared, because most of what you're afraid of is a boogeyman that you've made up in your head, and it was given to you in a large part by the mainstream media. You weren't listening to what Donald Trump was actually saying. You heard his sound bites, you heard liberal pundits tell you what he was saying, but you never listened to what he was saying, and that's why you still don't understand why he won. He came out and he spoke to people as real people, not, "We are going to do wonderful things for the people, diversity, middle class, yeah, jobs," like that. That is how Hillary speaks. She doesn't galvanize people like Barack Obama did, like Bernie Sanders did. She couldn't even fill a high school stadium because she's boring. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, I mean, this is something you're going to have to process and work through, because she did lose. And most Americans don't like her. Most Americans don't like Trump, as it is right now too. But there's no reason to be afraid. If you don't like him, that's fine. I don't necessarily think he's, I think he's a good man. I don't think that he's a paragon of virtue, but then again, the people pretending to be these paragons of virtue, the other red team schmarmasaurs that, yeah, oh yes, moral perfection, we must not have anything immoral in American society. And these are the guys who get caught, like, jacking somebody off in an airport bathroom, okay? So one thing I've realized is that the less a person aspires to the pretense of goodness and holiness, is that the more they actually have room in their own life to be just a good, decent person. And that is, as far as I can tell, doing the research that I've done into who this Trump character is, he seems to be a good man. He hires women to executive positions. He has defended minority access to, his elite developments, nightclubs, and golf courses and stuff. And as far as being ahead of the wave in terms of social progress, he's run the gamut. He's done that. And he is a master persuader. He saw an opening. He saw that the economy never really recovered under Obama. And this is, you haven't been paying attention. You've been in a liberal bubble for the last 8 years, saying, "Oh, Obama's president, how wonderful, how wonderful." And meanwhile, with Hillary Clinton as his Secretary of State, the most prosperous nation in Africa, Libya, under Muammar Gaddafi, was utterly destroyed. This is a crime against humanity that took place, and I didn't hear a peep out of any of you, okay? I am not a conservative. I don't even call myself a libertarian anymore after this Gary Johnson shenanigans. I'm an anarchist. I believe that humans should solve problems outside of the realm of government, and that as an official policy, I would like to see the government shrunk and minimized as much as possible, because the free market does things better than the government in literally every single area of life, except for two things: stealing money and killing people. The government does that way better than the private sector ever can. But this is the point, that most Americans don't see the government as this savior of their lives. I know a lot of you do. They think the government is this really beneficial entity, and in certain cases I suppose it can be, but in almost every single instance it just makes things harder for the lives of ordinary people. Bill Clinton signed NAFTA. It was NAFTA that sent the manufacturing jobs all overseas, and basically it was the low-priced agriculture coming into Mexico that caused the illegal immigration crisis. I mean, this is, in the world of tweets and mainstream media sound bites, these second and third order points of logic don't really come to the forefront, but Bill Clinton was instrumental in creating the immigration wave that we've experienced over the last 20 years. And it's because the Mexican farmers, Mexican and Central American farmers, had their agriculture, they couldn't sell anymore. They couldn't raise their crops for the same low level of price that was now flooding their country. And they came up into America. Some of them did it legally. A lot of them didn't. They didn't come in legally. They came in illegally. And technically that is a crime. I'm not racist against Hispanics. Me and Space Panther are in our... we are still processing. We are moving out of the United States. We will build our life in South America. We're not prejudiced people. This has nothing to do with prejudice for us. I would love to see a woman president, but not one that's a criminal warmonger. And this is something you guys really got to get through your heads, is that it's not about because she's a woman, it's because she's a criminal and a warmonger, and she's uninspiring, and she's corrupt in almost any way you could really point out. And now that we're the game is over, you should really do yourself a service and come to terms with these things, because it's not going away. Michael Moore is not going to convince Donald Trump not to take the presidency. I mean, there's a lot of people just breaking down right now. I walked out the next morning to go to work. I didn't, even if I was sad, I don't have the time to be crying my eyes out all day because of this result. But there were like people out on the street, like just crying to each other, and it was just, I understand this is emotional, you're afraid, but it's a boogeyman. The media made him out to be such a bad guy in order to help Hillary Clinton to win. Now the election's over, he won, most Americans saw through the bullshit, and they realized that Donald Trump is just a man who basically cares about his country. He's a billionaire, but he is a genuine person, and he speaks honestly according to his heart, and that attracted people. He's not false. Hillary is false. And so, really it's, for me, the reason that I voted for Trump, it comes down to one thing. I don't want to see World War III happen. This name-calling and antagonizing of Russia and calling for no-fly zones in Syria. A no-fly zone is an act of war. Enacting a no-fly zone in Syria would have led to the shooting down of Russian jets and a direct military confrontation between the nuclear global powers, the United States and Russia. Russia is also allied with China and Iran in Syria. This would have been a World War III that could easily have led to the deployment of nuclear weapons, and that's a road that once you go down, you can't come back, okay? These are the lessons of the 20th century that my millennial brethren have totally forgotten because the Berlin Wall came down when we were born, okay? So I have an interest in seeing our society progress to its optimal state, not just America, but the entire world. And that starts with recognizing that the government is not the solution to our problems, okay? And ultimately what Donald Trump is going to do, the key things that are the most important that are going to benefit the world, standing down from this antagonism with Russia, working together with them to destroy ISIS, okay, and basically not being the policeman of the world. NATO is obsolete. We shouldn't be pushing NATO to Russia's borders and right on their doorstep and antagonizing them, running them nuclear bombers along the border. It's insane. But you guys don't hear about this because you're watching MSNBC. All right, Rachel Maddow is not going to tell you about how the United States and its European allies are basically pressuring NATO, to go to Russia's borders and start this World War III scenario. Okay, and jobs, like, realistically, the prospect of a world war, the prospect of not having real economic growth, just this central bank inflated bubble economy that we have, people are not working. The jobs that have been added, we've lost like 50,000 manufacturing jobs in the last 8 years. And we've gained like 500,000 bartender and waiter jobs, okay? The people who are out there who actually can see the world that we're actually living in, it's very clear that the economy hasn't recovered. And you're not going to overcome people's bare base responsibilities and priorities in life with, oh, we want transgender rights, or we want, free, this or that, okay? There's core interests, and not seeing their kids sent off into foreign wars to die for some banker elite class, and having a job so that they can provide for their family. And if you want to convince yourself and convince other people that it's all because they're so racist and they're so sexist that they couldn't handle a female president, you're lying to yourself. And I'm helping you right now realize that, because these are your fellow Americans, and they care about their families, and they don't hate you. All right. For myself personally, I think it's very pathetic to see the crybabies out there just whining and screaming. But only a week ago it was like, oh, what are we going to do if Donald Trump contests the election results? And here these kids are out there just, we need to overturn democracy. Yeah, the Electoral College doesn't matter. We hate democracy. It's like the popular vote doesn't matter, guys, okay? Anybody remember 2000? Huh? Al Gore, anyone? Okay, the popular vote does not matter. Winning the country matters. Winning the states matters. And the people spoke. 80% of the counties in America voted for Donald Trump. Half the country voted for Donald Trump. And he is our president now. He's going to lower business taxes. He's going to bring a lot of companies back to the United States. A lot of money that's sitting out on foreign bank accounts is going to come back. And we're going to have more jobs. We're not going to have a world war with Russia. And these are things that we, if Hillary was Clinton, Russia would be like preparing for nuclear war right now. That's just a simple fact. And we would have continued our central bank inflated bubble. You know, the pretend make-believe Obama economy would have just kept on going with just more bartenders and waiters, you know, and people don't want that. This was a referendum on Obama's 8 years as president. People want to say he did a good job because he blew smoke up their ass and he spoke very flowery to them, and he pretended to care about everybody. I'm not saying he doesn't care about people, but it's all a show. Politics is theater, okay? And Donald Trump masterfully played his part, and now he's the president. He will be president of the United States come January. So I'm hopeful for that. I just wanted to share these words with you and help you recognize why there's not so much to fear about this guy. He wants to get the illegal immigrant criminals, the ones with a criminal record, out of the country. If you think that, we're splitting up families, we can't get some rapist or thief or murderer out of the country because we're splitting up a family, come on. I mean, for real. And as for the LGBTQ community, the gay community, Donald Trump, after Orlando, said, "I will defend your lives from a hateful foreign patriarchal ideology, just like I will any other American." And he got the attendees of the Republican convention to cheer. I mean, this guy is not a bigot. He's not a racist. The incidents that the media likes to harp on and that you guys are all harping on, they were ginned up, okay? He's not really a racist person. He might have used colorful language to get the more nationalist side of the red team on his side, but he will be a president for all Americans. I'm confident of that. And why I'm not afraid of him is because I helped get him elected, not just by voting, but me and the other alternative media broadcasters, basically, we are the ones who saw the trend. We are the ones who identified him as the candidate who could bring real change. We put him in office by looking closely at the corruption of Hillary and broadcasting it to everyone, sharing the WikiLeaks revelations. But basically, I have this message to say to Donald Trump here at the end, that congratulations, Donald. You did it, and you did it because we all did it with you, and we have overcome one barrier, just one barrier, in the pursuit of a happy and peaceful world. And I know that you'll be building your cabinet. You're building it right now. And just keep in mind that it was us who created you, who are rebelling against the establishment, and we don't want to see this crony cartel come back. And if we see some neocons coming into your cabinet, and if we start to see the war drums beating again for anything outside of a limited military coalition against ISIS, we're gonna have all eyes on you, son, all right? We created you, and we can destroy you. And if I start to see this stuff, this authoritarian tendencies in Trump's presidency reaching a crescendo and going too far, I will stand with you in the resistance, and we will do the same thing we've always done when we have a president who doesn't respect the American people, and we'll throw him out of office. But for now, I'm optimistic. I see no reason to be terrified. I think there's really great things here in the future, and I hope that you can process your fear and come to realize that it's not the end of the world, guys. And the earth keeps spinning, and the sun keeps rising and setting, and the moon keeps rotating around, the crops keep growing, and we're gonna have a wonderful, wonderful future as long as we keep the faith and remember that we are always the true sovereigns who are in control of our destiny. So cheers, wholeness and balanced vibrations. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and much love and respect to you all.